The Fashion Revolution is an annual event that gets us talking about the clothes we wear. I'm joined in studio by fashion lawyer Samaya Damar, and she's going to tell you what you should be looking for when you are retail shopping. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So we're talking about knowing where our clothes come from. I know a few years ago there was a factory in Bangladesh that actually collapsed, and it was this event that got people talking and got people wondering, actually, where do my clothes come from and how are they made? Tell me about the Fashion Revolution and how this event sparks these conversations globally.
The Rana Plaza disaster a few years ago collapsed, and this was due to poor working conditions in India, which killed thousands of workers. And so it sparked a global movement. So everybody decided that it was too many lives to be lost in one day at one time without impacting the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So on the 24th of April every year is Fashion Revolution Day, which aims to highlight the importance of transparency in the clothing supply value chain. So by aiming to say who made my clothes, you are sparking the retailers to actually show us who's making our clothes. Are they being taken care of? Are they in safe working conditions? Are they children? Are they slaves? We want to know who made our clothes so that we can create change in the industry.
Tell me about the conditions when it comes to textile working in South Africa.
In South Africa, it's much better than a lot of parts of the world, and this is due to legislation, because our acts, like the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, sets out exactly the minimum wage, the working conditions, etc. And employers have no discretion to pay less than minimum wage. They have to abide by the act at the very least.
All right, so how do we know then if we're buying clothes from maybe a store around the corner or even a big retailer, how do we know where the clothes are made? What's kind of the first step we should take?
On Fashion Revolution Day, so the trend is to wear your clothes inside out, to show your label and say who made my clothes. So you would see on the label whether it's made in China, made in India, etc. It's just to bring awareness as to where you source your clothing from. Obviously, if you buy local, then it's usually made local. So it's better to support the industry, even though you're paying a little bit more, but you know there's no human cost involved. Whereas the big retail chains, we are not sure where they make their clothes, but we would like them to tell us so that we can ensure that as the consumer, we are aware of where our clothing is made and by whom.
Should we be pushing big South African retailers to make that information available? So
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And whether it's the South African retailers or the international chains, we want to know, you know, are they supporting slavery, etc.
Yeah.
So it's very controversial, but I mean, as consumers, we'd rather do something than nothing, because we obviously hold the power.
Now you made a comment just a little while ago about labels saying made in China or made in India, and I think a lot of us are used to seeing those labels. A lot of things get made in China and India and Bangladesh, like we mentioned earlier. Does that necessarily mean that the workers in those countries are working in poor conditions?
Not necessarily. It depends on obviously the factory involved and the retailer, etc. So the thing is, we don't know who and how and what the conditions are, hence the need for transparency. So if there is exploitation going on, then we can see it, because at the moment, even if we see made in China, we have no idea. We can't put the faces to the people that made our clothes. So yeah, it's difficult to tell, but I think by doing this movement, it pushes retailers to actually answer our questions, and they could. So there have been participants where ladies, say from India, say I made your clothes, and they hold up these banners, so we can actually see that they are being taken care of, which is what we want.
Now, why are the conditions such as the ones that we learned about when in Bangladesh, when the factory collapsed, why are those conditions allowed in these countries?
It's because of the government and the economies, because you see in these countries there is legislation that protects the factory workers and the garment industry, etc. but it's not enforced, because if they don't come to a certain price point, they lose the business, which is bad for their developing economy. So the government often overlooks this fact so that they can come to cost, and yeah, that's what's going on.
What are you doing on Fashion Revolution Day to get the message out there?
I am going to be holding a talk at the Boca Fashion Film Festival. So it's fashion fundamentals for legal compliance, and I'm going to be educating the fashion industry in South Africa on what they can do to take steps in order to be compliant in the legal sense.
What can they do?
There's a lot that they can do, starting at the very least with their employment contracts, ensuring that they do not pay less than minimum wage and that their working conditions are extremely good, and just that they need to comply with the act. Otherwise, they are running an illegal business. And a lot of them really don't know this, or they don't understand it. So that's why I'm aiming to bring that to light.
If we want to find out more about Fashion Revolution Day, how can we do that?
You can go onto the website, which is Fashion Revolution SA, and follow us on Facebook, and yeah, everything's going to be out in the open, and there's a lot of participation this year, and it keeps growing, which is amazing.